Grizz Nation, our off-season outlook rolls on. I'm Michael Wallace, joined by Rob Fischer. Rob, we're going to talk about the coaching staff at this point. We've had, broken down this team on a number of different levels, but you got to look at the coaching staff and say that what Taylor Jenkins has done over his 2 years so far here has been nothing short of remarkable, taking a rebuilding, a reset, and getting this team into playoff contention, basically both years, making the playoffs this year for the first time in 4 seasons. When you look at the job Taylor Jenkins has done overall, what impresses you about his path, so to speak, over the first couple seasons?
Well, I've covered a lot of coaches, and I think, and I've been lucky enough to be in the huddles and be around them as much as I am. And there's one important thing to be a successful coach, I think, in the NBA, because they all know basketball, right? I mean, they wouldn't be coaches if they didn't know the game. But the one thing that's important is the respect from the players. And he has that, and he's had it from day one. And I think you see the relationship between the head coach and the players, the whole coaching staff really, and the players. And, Brevin Knight said to me one time, and it's always stuck in my mind, that when the players start sounding like the head coach and having the same message as the head coach, they're on the same page. And that they're playing for him and they believe in him. And they do. They trust him, and I think that trust goes both ways. That's been the most impressive thing, because it's happened from day one. He always talked about building relationships, and he's done that, and that's important. That's important as a head coach, because we've had a head coach where you go in the huddle even in your first year and guys aren't listening, guys aren't paying attention, guys don't care. You'll never have the team, and you're done. I mean, you have to have complete buy-in from the players, and he's got that.
We've seen the roster sort of have a turnover a little bit, but so is Coach Jenkins' staff. He's had 3 new coaches come in since the bubble, or for the bubble, and since then. And that was a different staff, so to speak, from the first year he's had. The relationships and the communications are key in that. What is it about Taylor's ability to communicate that you think resonates most?
Well, I think he's proactive. I mean, he starts the communication, and I think that's very important, and doesn't just reach out and then let it go. I mean, it's constant communication. He's talked about it from day one with relationships, and I think the staff relationships that he has as well. Go back to the word trust. I wasn't as close to the staff this year as I was last year, being in the huddle and being at practice and shoot-arounds and those things, not being able to do that this year. So a lot of this is based on last year, but still observing this year. I think everybody knows their role on the staff, and everybody knows what they need to do in-game. Everybody knows how to prepare. And I think that starts at the top with Taylor, and that leadership that he has. So I think it's great leadership from the top at such a young age is very remarkable. And with a young team, sometimes guys can go their own way. It doesn't happen with this team, and that's the most impressive thing.
We've seen Taylor have to make adjustments before the season and especially in season, with so many guys going in and out of the lineup with injuries. It was a delicate situation to handle. Jaren Jackson Jr. and Justice Winslow coming back late in the season. We've seen Jonas Valanciunas have to miss some games. We've seen the roster and the lineups and the rotations change from, basically one point of the season to another. And he also, by the way, happened to have 40 games in 67 days coming out of the All-Star break with no practice time. Zach Kleiman and the front office staff said that probably is the most impressive thing about this team, to get this young group ready for the playoffs without basically having any practice time. How about the development aspect that he's been able to have with some of these young guys, Ja Morant, all of these guys that you see there?
Well, I think it was impressive, and I think a thing that you can see out of that and why you can say it's impressive is because this team most nights came to play and compete. And a lot of times when they got beat, even in times they got beat by teams that you would consider inferior, it wasn't for lack of effort. They would fight, they just didn't play well. And that's why you'd hear coach and the players talk about another learning experience, another learning growth experience. And, we might roll our eyes when you hear that so much, but again, it was coming from the players too. So I think everybody was kind of on the same page of we need to learn from our mistakes. And I think this team did. And not only did they come and compete every night, but for them to play their best basketball when it mattered the most, that was impressive. Because up until about 2 weeks left in the season, they were a 500 team. They were no better, they were no worse. They were a 500 team. They had bad wins, they had bad losses, they had good wins. I mean, it was a roller coaster. But when it mattered the most and they needed it, even through this roster rotation and guys coming back from injury and all those things and all the games in a few days, to be able to play your best basketball at that time of year, I think says a lot about the staff and a lot about these players and their desire.
Well, we know what Taylor Jenkins always talk about, his trilogy: compete, play together, get better every day.
Yeah.
Check. check, and check. For Rob Fischer, I'm Mike Wallace. We've analyzed the coaching staff. Keep it locked on all of our offseason outlook coverage at Grizzlies.com.